Hey comic book fans, welcome back to the Comic Fix. Now today I'm going to be reviewing All-Star Westerns issue number 15. Now, the last time we left off with All-Star Western is that Dr. Arkham has been kidnapped by Mr. Hyde. Now, you may be wondering, is this the same Mr. Hyde from Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? Well, yes it is. The backstory of it is that the book that has that story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, it really did happen, but it didn't happen the way that it had in the book. The author wrote it as a true story, and it didn't go anywhere. So what did he do? He rewrote it as the story that we know today. So in here we got Mr. Hyde capturing Dr. Arkham, and what is he going to do? He's going to use a potion that has to do with the Black Diamond that basically will turn Dr. Arkham into a ravishing beast just like Mr. Hyde. And it's so cool though, because Mr. Hyde, he's talking about how this just will change you and give you more of a beast type of feeling, and it'll bring out your main urges. So it's just cool though, because you're wondering, what kind of urges does Dr. Arkham have? He's very much an internal guy. He doesn't really express much, and he doesn't try to have arguments with people. He's very much internal and just like one of those people that, that doesn't want to have to deal with shit. And so it's just interesting to see how is this going to change him. And to Mr. Hyde's surprise, not as much as he expected. Yes, Dr. Arkham is more violent, but not in the way that he is. So that's just very interesting to see how that's playing out. But of course, Jonah Hex has to go in there and save the day. And this is where the book got really a lot of fun. It's just seeing this big old battle between Jonah Hex and Mr. Hyde. And Dr. Arkham, he's basically just seeing this big old battle going on. And it just is basically like, peace, see you guys later. I'm going to go and basically have fun in the town. And you just see Jonah Hex being like, knowing what's going on and being like, oh my god, if he gets out there and kills somebody, this is going to ruin everything for him. And it's nice to see Jonah Hex actually caring a lot for Dr. Arkham. We get this really cool battle between Mr. Hyde and Jonah Hex. And this is where I started to see the faults of the book. Not on the part of Jimmy Palmiotti, Justin Gray, the writers of it, but the art in particular. Is that there's times in there where you'll see the people in the panel, but nothing in the background. The background will be either white, gray, blue, purple, whatever. But there was nothing in the background. And it was most prevalent in the scene where you see a table and you see the chairs, but you see under the table also. And there's no chairs there whatsoever. There's no feet for the chairs or anything like that. All you see is the top of the chairs. So just things like that just really brought down the book. And I could have looked past it, but I'm a reviewer, and I just see this type of stuff, and I think this artist, he did not really have enough time to convey the message that he wanted to. And maybe he needs to go on to a different book, or just go out of comics and because he's not doing the job that it needs to be done. He's basically just, cutting corners to get the job done. And you know what? I don't like cutting corners. Cutting corners is no good for my comics. Because I'm paying $3.99 for this book, and I'm seeing cut corners. That is no good. Especially since when I pay $3.99 for a book, I expect the best. And in here, this artist was not giving his best. And then I also started to notice that there's times when you see Jonah Hex, and you know how he's just foreign face? Well, I don't think the artist really can convey that just foreign face as well as he could. And there just seems like times like he was just cheating a little bit. And it really just put me off for this whole entire, just the way that the story was being told. I mean, it just brought this book a little bit down, but I was still having fun. The writing in here is just really spectacular. Especially the scenes with Dr. Arkham. When he goes out and he starts to go to a bar, those things right there just put this book over the top with just the way that the scenes were put, and it's just so much fun. There's a little bit of there with the Black Diamond that we've seen in the little crossover of story that's being told between Catwoman, All-Star Western, and I think Team 7 with the Black Diamond. and I forget who the villain is that has to deal with the has to do with the Black Diamond. But it's interesting though to see how the Black Diamond is dealt differently between each and every book, and to see that the book or each book is taking place in different times. Where Catwoman is taking place in now, All Star Western is taking place in the way future, and Team 7, I believe, is taking place 5 years before all the main events that's happening in the DC Comics. So it's just a cool thing to see the difference that has been happening with the shards of the Black Diamond. But the story is excellent. The artwork is not. And for me to pay $3.99 for this, you gotta get rid of the artist. He's cutting corners, and for a $3.99 book, you cannot be cutting corners. I expect the best when I pay $3.99. This, by far, was not the best. So, in the end, I'm going to give this book a 3 out of 5. It would have been a 4 if the artist can actually do his job right, and in here, he does not. So, 3 out of 5 I'll be reviewing is Red Lanterns issue number 15. As you can see from the cover, it has Bleez on there, and it says on there, gonna paint the earth red. Now, when you see this cover, you think to yourself, this is gonna be Bleez-centric story, but really is not. It is more of an Atrocitus storyline. So what happened in the previous issue is that Atrocitus needs to basically power up his Red Lantern battery. So what does he do? He tells his Red Lanterns to go out and basically get some items and bring it back to it so they can charge it up. Atrocitus, he goes to his home world, the one that was destroyed by the Manhunters. And he goes to there and basically sees a vision of what happened that day that the Manhunters came and put genocide on his whole entire planet. Those scenes are so sick. And you actually get to see now a new redesign for the Manhunters. And this redesign for the Manhunters is really, really cool. They almost got a Terminator type of look when the Terminator basically gets his skin ripped off and you just see that face. That's basically what the Manhunters now look like. It's so freaking sick. There's a point in there where the Manhunters basically rise, and Atrocitus says to him, I basically had you guys here so that the day that I needed you, I could call upon you to go destroy my enemies, the Guardians. And it was so freaking cool. You get some really cool insight into who Atrocitus is, and the artwork in here that conveys that message is so freaking beautiful. The artist is Miguel Sepulveda. His artwork is freaking beautiful. There was a point in his run of Red Lanterns where Miguel, he left and he went on to, I believe it was Stormwatch, and he was on there for 3 or 4 issues. And then he left and he came back onto Red Lanterns. During that time that he was off Red Lanterns, the book quality went down severely. Red Lanterns is a book that is more of my guilty pleasure, but having him at the art just made it that much better. Well, he's back for the past 2 issues, and it is fantastic. And now, Peter Milligan took a book that was my guilty pleasure. And when a book is a guilty pleasure, it's never a book that you're looking at to be good. But this book, it was. The writing in here was really top-notch. The only time that it wasn't was in the plotting. The parts with Atrocitus, really freaking good, and I loved how it was flowing all together. But then the parts with Bleez and Rancor was not all that good. Why wasn't it good? Well, the parts with Rancor is that he goes to the homeworld, and the homeworld is Earth. And when I saw Rancor, I thought to myself, maybe this guy is going to be more of a character that's going to be taking over the Red Lantern book, and it's going to be more focused on him, because he is a human after all. So he goes to Earth. And Atrocitus gave him the job to basically go and have vengeance on the person who killed his grandfather. So he goes to Earth, he sees his brother, and he wants to talk to his brother, and just sees how the death of his grandfather just changed his brother. And it just makes him even more angry. And the way that Miguel Sepulveda does the artwork to convey how the angry Rancor is really freaking cool. If I had more lines, I will actually show you the pictures. And just at this point, you're just like, wow, Miguel, your artwork just ups this book so much. But it still did not feel as tight, especially in the writing department, as it was, or the plotting elements, as it was with Atrocitus. But at the end, it was a really cool read, and the ending of this book just made me go, oh my god. I really just said, I was like, holy shit, I cannot wait for the next issue. And with Red Lanterns, it was a guilty pleasure, and I just kept on picking up month after month after month. But I think issue number 16 is going to be the first time I'm really looking forward to the Red Lantern book. And it is part of the Rise of the Third Army, and you do not get to see the Third Army in this book, but you get kind of the sense of what the New Guardians Green Lantern, the New Guardians is like, where you see in the New Guardians, Kyle Rayner basically get himself powered up so he can go take the fight to the Guardians. Well, and here's kind of like the same thing. Red Lanterns are at the weakest point right now, try and get themselves strengthened, try and get their army together. That's what they have the Manhunters for, to go take the fight to the Guardians. So it's all building up to this big old fight with the Guardians, and I cannot wait for it. This issue was freaking amazing. The plotting, though, was a little bit of its downfall, but it was definitely the best issue of Red Lanterns to date. I would definitely suggest everyone going and starting this series with issue number 14. So I'm going to give Red Lanterns issue number 15 a surprising 4 out of 5. What I'm going to be reviewing is The Flash, issue number 15. Just like Batwoman, when J.H. Williams III is not doing the artwork, the quality of the book goes down. Just like in this one, when Francis Manapul and Brian Buccellato are not on the helms on art, the quality of this book goes down. Now, who did they get to come in to be a guest artist for this book? It is none other than Ryan Wynn and Marcus Tu. If you guys don't read Batwing, they did about 8 issues of Batwing, and they did a really good job in my opinion. Well, they come on to work on The Flash for an issue or maybe 2. And how is it? Well, the artwork right off the bat is not as good as what I saw in Batwing. There are points in there, just like in All-Star Western, where you see the person in the frame, but you don't see anything in the background. You just see gray, blue, or whatever. And I don't like that whatsoever. I just feel that is so freaking lazy. And you see in the artwork that they do cut corners quite a bit. I don't know how much time they were given to do this one issue, but you definitely tell that these guys were rushed. Now, you guys may be asking yourself, how about the story? Well, the storyline is actually pretty cool. In issue number 14, Flash went up against against King Grodd, and he goes and I know everyone's seen this panel where he goes and he hits King Grodd, and you just see his outfit just start to shatter. Now his uniform that the Flash wears is part of the Speed Force, and you just saw the Speed Force just cracking, breaking all over the place, and eventually went to his face, and everyone could see his face. Well, at that point, his girlfriend Patty basically sees the fight happening and notices that it's Barry Allen. Now, Barry Allen at this point has been dead. And so it's just such a cool moment. You're just like, oh my god, everything's going to change. And it does. You see that Barry Allen is out for the count, and King Grodd looks like he's about to kill the Flash. And what does Patty do? She goes and does like a David and Goliath thing and flings a rock at King Grodd. And at this point, you just see King Grodd just turn his head as the electric bolts just come out of his eyes, because he does have the Speed Force. And the Speed Force is going away from King Grodd. And he's getting automatically weaker this whole time that he's been using the Speed Force, and when it leaves him, he is basically on his deathbed. He's basically just crawling just to try to get to a place where he could basically power up and have more Speed Force. And at this point, Turbine, who is with Patty, is basically using his powers to try to destroy King Grodd. And Patty takes this moment to go and run to Barry Allen, and there's just very much a sovereign moment where she's basically just touching him and just being like, you just see the love that she has for him. And I just wish that the art can be just better conveyed at this point, because this issue as a whole is really, really good, and it gives you a lot of answers and questions, and it seems like a focal point where if everything's going to change, it's going to change at this very moment. And just so cool to see. And then at this point, we go over to where the ancestors or the gorilla people are at this like football field, and they're using one of their older gorillas to basically make a mirage around the stadium. And so all the army people that are there who are fighting the king's the gorillas are backing off because they see all this radiation cloud coming over them, and they're just running away. And you're just seeing the power that the gorilla army has, and you're just like, wow, this is really freaking cool. And then it does turn kind of going more downhill. There's a point in there with the rogues. And that point in there, you'll see him more as a hero type of element, but it was just done with really, really quickly. But there was one interesting point. Mirror Master gets and tells the people to come into basically his realm, and they're going into his world. And that's going to be actually a very interesting plot that's, I hope, going to be answered pretty soon, because it's going to be really cool to see if Mirror Master will actually let these people free once the whole guerrilla warfare is all done with. And then we jump back into King Grodd, and he is just barely crawling over to the place where he got charged with the Speed Force. And you just see him basically hugging this thing that holds the Speed Force, and you're just like, man, he is so weak. This is the perfect point to destroy him. But then that makes me wonder, what the hell is Turbine doing? Well, you find out Turbine basically took the time to take Barry Allen to a house and basically try and recover. At this point, Francis Manapul and Brian Buccellato come back on art, and they do a fantastic page of what could happen as Barry's trying to heal up. His speed force, his speed mind is racing through the probabilities of what could happen if he just did this or just a couple things differently. Like, let's say that he went and got the rogues together and they went to go and try to fight Gorilla Grodd. Or what would happen if he went on his own to fight Gorilla Grodd. And every single outcome, it comes with somebody dying, and there was no answer that he needs. So he comes to the conclusion that he is going to need to give himself up to Gorilla Grodd. I don't know what the next issue is going to hold, because right now we got Barry Allen basically going to go give himself up to Gorilla Grodd, and we got King Grodd on his knees trying to get to the Speed Force. I don't know what's going to happen. We got Mirror Master basically taking all the people in, and there's so many questions and so many answers happening in this book that you're just like, oh my god, this whole storyline is coming to a head in the next, I think it's 2 issues until the storyline's done. But this issue right here was really, really cool, except for the artwork. The artwork brought it down a lot. And I have not seen this cutting corners like in this week of comics. I haven't seen this in a long, long time. But you can definitely tell that Marcus 2 and Ryan Wynn definitely cut corners to try to get this issue done on time. Now, I know DC Comics, they said, we want all our comics to come out on time. The only couple times that hasn't come out is Justice League and I think Batman Inc. But Batman Inc., that wasn't their fault. It was on the shooting that happened. So I know that we said as comics, we want our comics on time. But what we're getting, though, is sometimes 2 different artists going on, doing one book, and just messing up with the whole entire flow of the series. So hopefully that will stop, because I would rather have a book be a couple weeks late than have a book where two artists are on the same book. So it just messed up with the whole entire flow, but the story elements were I just so much enjoyed it. So in the end, I can't give The Flash issue number 15 more than a 2.5 out of 5. I want to give it higher, but the artwork and the cutting of corners just took so much out of this book. So a 2.5 out of 5.